Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be going over the Raccoon ranking of 2022, but this, unlike all the rankings that we've covered so far, and I know we've covered a lot, this is a panelist based ranking, so we have a bunch of people working on this, not an algorithm, so that's very interesting. A lot of decisions are going to be made differently then, because people might value things that are more recent more importantly, they might value different events more importantly, all that good stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how things actually switch up, and let's get right into it. Now on to that 76 to 100 tier, and unfortunately we can't talk about every single player in this video because that would just take way too long, but in this tier I love the players that are getting highlighted, specifically the Japanese hidden bosses in like Raido, SSR, Ryu, Neo, and Tsubaki, especially Neo, because Neo doesn't get talked about enough because Shattuck exists. Like Shattuck is this crazy Corrin that like when you're talking about Corrin, you have to talk about Shattuck, but then Neo kind of gets overshadowed, I feel like, a lot. It's like being like the best Byleth or the second best Byleth in the world, or like the second best Diddy Kong in the world. Like people don't talk about you because you have to fight against like Leo and Tweak and Corrin. For that, it's like Shattuck. Shattuck's just so good. He's this young prodigy coming up, had a really good year, and Neo is incredible. He's had some very good performances. He's absolutely amazing. So I'm happy that he's getting highlighted on here. People that are too low for me, I think Base Mage is a little too low. He had a pretty good year. Mr. R might move up a couple spots, but also the first half of his year was a little rough. And then the only one that I'm like 100% sure that I would move up is Dark Wizzy. I think Dark Wizzy is way too low, just considering like his latter half of the year was really strong, and he doesn't have a ton of performances after I think Big House, but like before that he got a couple 13th, 17th, and then that Big House run is just really strong. Got a lot of very good wins there as well. So I think Dark Wizzy should be moved up, but overall not too many quarrels with this year. Also Tsubaki, I'm glad he's on here at that number 100 spot. He only had 2 majors this year, I believe, where he did very well. Both got a Mia win at Subigeki 12, I think it was, and then Japan 24 was incredible. Got a bunch of amazing wins. So I think this tier is absolutely fine. Again, I move up Dark Wizzy definitely, but the rest of them I could definitely see arguments for. Up next is the 51 to 75 tier, and again, a lot of hidden bosses being highlighted here from Japan, which I think is super sick. You have Jogabu, Alice, Choco, Takai, Hudo, players that people are not talking about enough, especially Takai. I think Takai is crazy, so I'm glad that they're all on here pretty high as well. And then the main thing I disagree with on this tier is Tilde and Masa. I think Tilde is better than Masa right now, just because Tilde's highs are so good. Like, oh my lord, when Tilde's playing at his best, it is actually unreal. But I think it could be argued that like when both players are playing like on their average, that Masa is better. But Tilde, oh my lord, when Tilde's playing good, it is scary to play against. I do think it's fine though. Like they're both argued for best Falco because they both have very very good wins, both amazing players. And then someone that's too low, I think Send is really low. I don't have him at 75. I think having him in this tier is fine, but I think having him at the bottom is a little low. Maybe I'd move up Lima a couple spots because I think Lima's really, really good. But outside of that, there's nothing like crazy. But again, I do really like the love shown to Japanese players, and not just the ones I talked about, like Niitono, Mutakin, Atorie. I think Atorie was ranked a little lower on other rankings just because of how like inconsistent he is. He has a lot of pretty bad performances, but like his highs are so good when Atorie is playing. Lord, God, when Notori is playing good, it's so good. So I think this tier overall, it isn't too bad. 50 to 31, same thing as the other two tiers. We have a lot of love to Japanese players, which I think is absolutely deserved because, again, competing in Japan is tough. Being consistent in that region is like the hardest thing to do in the world. You have Leah, Sigma, Riziasu, Repo, Shiryuki, Kome. I think the Kome play is pretty typical, but I think the rest of these players are higher than they are on other lists, especially players like Leah. I think Leah is unranked on a lot of lists just because of his performances, or rather the amount of tournaments he's been to. He just hasn't been to a ton of stuff, but Leah is actually unreal. He is such an amazing player. I hope we can see more of him because Greninja is just a cool character. And then Sigma also getting some recognition. I think he doesn't get talked about a lot just because he's not actually hitting those top 8s. And when you're not hitting the top 8, you're not relevant in Smash. But Sigma's getting a lot of 9th places, a lot of 13th, a lot of good wins along the way, so he's absolutely amazing. Riziasu, I mean, we've made videos about Riziasu. Look at that. 4 characters here, and there's more besides this. Like Riziasu is amazing. Shiryuki with some really good tournaments. I think the only player that's too low for me on this one is Apollo Kage. I think Apollo Kage is at worst like 31st around there. Like he is very, very good. Apollo Kage has had a really good season, so I would have him a couple spots higher. But aside from that, like all of these, it's like if it's like less than 5 or so, I'm probably not going to mention it. So I think it's fine. Just move up Apollo Kage, and I love to like again Riziasu, Sigma, Leah. They all deserve that because they're all amazing and they don't get talked about enough. On to the 11 to 30 rank, and off the bat we have Yada over Siski, which I do not agree with yet. I think Yada definitely could take that title in 2023, but I think Siski's just had too many like really high placements in 2022. Like he has been so consistent this year, got a lot of amazing wins, just absolutely incredible. But Yada does as well. Like he has wins on Proto. I think he did I think 4th place at Maisuma Top 10, I believe. I might be misremembering that. But Yada's had a very good year, and they both should be around this range. Honestly, I'd move Siski up as well, but I think Siski is just really good. A lot of consistent performances should be a little higher. Hikaru, Passeriman, I love that they're getting highlighted, especially Hikaru. Hikaru's had a really good year, and he's doing really well at regionals as well, which don't get talked about a lot because, like, you know, if there's like 30 events on at Ultimate every weekend, if there's like a big Japanese regional and there's like an NA major, people aren't going to talk about the regional, but Hikaru's won like a bunch of, I think Suma and Batos are the ones he usually does well at, and he's got a lot of very good wins along the way there, as well as having a pretty good majors. And then Yoshidota and Hiro also being pretty high. I think Yoshidota and Hiro are high because they don't go to a lot of tournaments, but when you look at them play, it's like, oh yeah, Yoshidota is top 10 free, Hiro's top 20 free. Like, both these players are actually insane. I still probably wouldn't have them this high. I think I'd have Yoshidota around, honestly, he's like around this range again. I kind of have in my head for Ultimate right now, because it's so close, I have ranges. So I'll have like 15 to 10, all those players are the exact same rank to me, like 10 to 5. I think Yoshidota being in, like, he's probably in the, like, I think 11 to 17 has a range right now, just based off, like, players. Maybe even 11 or 17 to, like, 8. It's, like, actually insane how close it is right now. I think Yoshidota is definitely in that tier, so I think a 12th place for him is fine, because, like, when you watch him play, he's low-key, like, top 10. I think players that are too low are Zomba. I think I'd move up Zomba a couple spots. His consistency this year has just been, like, actually unreal, as well as starting, like, especially towards the end, he started getting, like, a lot of very good wins, like, light wins, Akolo wins. Like, those are super, super impressive. And then Sonics as well. Again, same thing. Sonics is just so consistent, has some really good wins as well. I think he's a little bit low. I'd move them both up. Like, nothing crazy. It's like at most like 4 spots or like 5 spots. So I'd move them up a little bit. But again, this tier, it isn't that insane. The top 10 is where it gets crazy, by the way, spoilers. But before we get to the top 10, I want to talk about the biggest variations on this list. So I've taken the top 50 from Orion ranking and Raccoon ranking and compared the differences of the position of players. We have Akka with plus 31 on Raccoon ranking, Passeriman with plus 17, Sen with minus 33, Yar with plus 13, Leah was not top 100 on Orion ranking, Sigma was plus 13, Hikaru was plus 13, Bloom Forever was minus 10, Shiryuki was plus 19, Fatality was minus 19, Riziasu was plus 20, Shag was minus 18, Tilde was minus 13, and Ned was minus 20. And this is only the players in the top 50, and only if they had a difference of 10 positions or more. So I think this is everyone. I might have missed 1 or 2, but I think we got them all. So I've broken this up into 3 segments. The players in red are players that have only been in Japan this year, at least to my knowledge. Maybe one of them traveled outside, but I'm pretty sure this is right. And then we have Leah with the biggest difference of not even being top 100 on Orion ranking, but this is just because he had like no events, and Orion ranking, it very heavily values players that have been to more stuff, so that is why he was so low. And also he's cracked, so that's why he's high on Raccoon ranking. Like, Leah's very good. Akka as well, plus 31, kind of the same thing as Leah. And this is, out of all like the crazy differences of placements, Akka is the one I agree with most of this, because oh my god, Akka is really good. He has some incredible highs, a lot of good wins. So I think Akka being plus 31, even though it seems like a lot, I think it's honestly fine, maybe a couple down, but Akka's really good. And then Yara, Sigma, Shiryuki, and Riziasu all getting nice buffs. So I think this list, it very heavily values people that have just been doing well in Japan, which I think is fair, because Japan is the hardest region in the game to be consistent with, because oh my god, everyone in Japan is crazy. The level of play there is really good. So these players that are getting wins, being consistent in Japan, I think they should be rewarded for that. And then we have players that have been in NA, EU, or Japan, like they've been in multiple regions. Passeriman and Hikaru obviously being more in Japan, so again, being more highlighted there because they are doing well in Japan, have some good performances in there, as well as a couple good ones in Europe. Bloom being mainly in Europe, so he's getting dinged there, I think, at least because he's had very good performances in Europe, but maybe the wins don't count for as much. He's been really consistent over there. I'd move him up a couple spots. Shag, honestly, same thing. He's had some really good performances in NA and in Europe as well, but again, maybe the Europe performances aren't as weighted. And Fatality and Tilde, though they've been mainly in NA, like Fatality has like a really good, like Fatality's just really consistent. He's a lot of very performances. I think he's like a 13th or 17th at SmashCon, which is really strong. And then Tilde as well, really good year, has a very strong E Carabina. So I think all these players should be moved up or down like accordingly by a couple spots. Honestly, Hikaru is like fine. I think Bloom should be moved up a little bit. I think Tilde should definitely be moved up. Again, we kind of already talked about him earlier. And I think Fatality's consistency, like, it can't be ignored. He is so consistent, it's actually unreal. And these are players that have just been in NA. Sen, we've already talked about. I think he should be higher, like minus 33. I think he's just way too low. And then Ned as well, it's been very consistent, had a really good year. I think he should be a little higher. But these are like the biggest differences. And again, it's interesting to see how a panelist ranking is different from algorithm. Like the panelist, it clearly favors Japan, which again, I think is fair because Japan is really good. Not as much emphasis on EU and NA, it looks like Japan getting a lot of points, so I think that's absolutely fine. Interesting to see the differences, though, between the Raccoon ranking and the Mega ranking, or rather a Ryan ranking, just like how an algorithm versus a person is like going to value certain events based off like the players that are there, the average level of play. I think it's sick to see. Now we're here at the top 10, and if you think this ranking is whack, it's out of control, it's crazy, off the rails, you've seen nothing. Yeah, we have Riddles at 10, Onin at 9, Tweak at 8, and T at 7. I think all these placements are absolutely fine. Again, I have players like kind of interchangeable in Ultimate right now. It's like, oh, in the top 10 especially, it's like, yeah, both these players can move up, like down or up 2 or 3 slots, and these players are all within the ranges. I have them. We have Proto at 6. I think Proto at 6 is a little high for him, but also like he's done crazy well in NA. Low-key the best player in the world at NA, winning Double Down, Smash Summit 5 and Smash Ultimate Summit 4. He did really well there. And then he also has good performances in Japan. Like, they're bad performances in contrast to the NA ones, but he's still doing pretty well in Japan, getting top 8 consistently. And also something to consider is, like, Akka, for example. Proto has a loss to Akka. On a Ryan ranking, that's really bad because Akka's at 80. But on this ranking, Akka's, like, top 50. So that's, like, a lot of his bad losses aren't as bad here, which is something to consider. That's probably the reason why he is as high as he is. I think Proto is definitely a top 6 caliber player, so it's not that big of a deal. I just have him a little bit lower. And then Shoot Tone over Light, kind of the same thing. Like, Shoot Tone has been doing very well in Japan, and those wins are like definitely valued more on this list. As well as he won Wave. Like, he has done very well this year. One of the most consistent players in the world. But Light as well. I have Light at 4. Oh my god, Light, like, especially like 16-man invitationals, every invitational except, I think, Scuffed, he got second at, and then Alisai, that's like kind of a weird invitational. Like, he is so good, a lot of very good wins, basically a good win on every single player within this top 10. Like, Light is absolutely phenomenal, but again, Shoot and Light are both 4 and 5, it's not that big of a deal. None of these players, like, the biggest ones I've changed performances are probably Proto. I moved him down, like, maybe 3 or 2 slots. Everyone else is, like, interchangeable by, like, 1. So it's nothing crazy. But this top 3, oh, lordy. Now, the top 3 in the world, embrace yourself because it is wild. Number 3 is Leo, number 2, Akla, number 1, Spargo. Oh my god, the drama, the content, the clickbait. Thank you, Raccoon Ranking. This is a crazy placement, and I unironically never considered Leo being number 3. It never once crossed my mind, because it's like, Akla, Spargo, Leo, they're all in contention for number 1 in the world in 2022. But then it's like, let's say you have Akla at number 1 because you really value how well he's been doing in Japan. But then Leo's definitely number 2. Never once crossed my mind that he could be number 3. It's like, it's crazy. And then obviously we have Spargo and Akla, definitely deserving of their top 3 spots. They are incredible. Like, Spargo has been so consistent, has won multiple super majors. He's looked very good, as a bunch of amazing wins. Same thing with Akla. His dominance in Japan cannot be understated. How impressive that is. Like, oh my god, Akla in Japan is actually unreal, as well as doing very well in NA. But Leo, oh my god, Leo is so good. He's been very good in Europe. He's been super dominant in Europe. He's very good in NA. Even though it is his worst year for Smash Ultimate, I do think he is still number 1. And I'm honestly surprised that it's a panelist ranking that would have him at the lowest, just because I feel like when you watch Leo play, especially at Alisai, this is just like, he just looks like the best player in the world. Like, again, I'm going to refer to Alisai like 30 times in this little rant, because Leo and Alisai, when you watch that is probably some of the best Smash players I've ever seen played consistently throughout like 5 sets. The way he was counterpicking, the way he's slingshotting, his neutral, his decision making, is just best player in the world. Material, his dominance over Akla, I think, showed that very well. And I'm honestly shocked that, like, a panelist ranking, like, a panelist can see, like, okay, Leo is crazy here, but an algorithm really doesn't value that. Like, it doesn't value how hard you win, it just values if you win or you lose. So it's pretty interesting to see Leo at number 3 on the Raccoon ranking, and I'm curious what you guys think. Again, I have Leo number 1. I think Spargo Akla are like kind of interchangeable for 2 and 3 because they both had very close season. I guess it just considers like Akla's been to more stuff, but Spargo's been a little more consistent. So whatever you value there, but I have Leo as number 1. I'm curious what you guys think, and then also if you're watching this video and you're Raccoon ranking, I'm curious on why you guys made this decision, because it's pretty bold to make Leo at 3. I'm sure you got a lot of backlash for that. I'm very interested, but I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If there's any players that I didn't highlight in this video and you want me to go over them, please let me know down below. And also, there's a video or the link in the description to Raccoon Ranking. They have a channel and they've done like some highlights for the top 50. I think it's top 50. Like, they've done some cool videos. It's really cool. Go check it out. Thank you for it. It's been absolutely unreal lately. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry, got a little more rambly to the end, but like, come on, Leo at 3, it's going to get a little rambly. You know me. So again, sport's been unreal. Thank you all for everything, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.